closely at this image. What you're not seeing is exactly what makes this machine the most dangerous ever built by man. In classical aviation, there is a sacred rule. Without a vertical tail, you have no control. Without a rudder, the airplane is like a dry leaf tossed in the wind, destined to spin on its own axis until it breaks apart in the air. For 100 years, engineers said that the pure wing design was aerodynamic suicide. But here it is. The B-21 Raider. It has no tail. It has no vertical surfaces. It defies the laws of physics that keep every other airplane in the sky. Why would the United States Air Force bet billions of dollars on a design that is, by definition, unstable? Why? In the world of sixth-generation stealth, stability is the enemy. Today, you will understand the hidden technology that allows the B-21 to fly where physics says it should fall. The concept of the B-21 was not born in a modern supercomputer. It was born from the obsession of a man who lived decades ahead of his time, Jack Northrop. While the world was still marveling at propeller planes and heavy fuselages, in 1908, the vision of the flying wing already promised something impossible. Eliminate everything that doesn't generate lift. Jack Northrop knew that the fuselage and tail were just drag, parasitic drag. If he could remove them, he would create the perfect war machine. Faster, with greater range, and invisible to the eye. And later to radar. In the 1940s, Northrop brought his metal monsters to life. The XB-35 and the imposing YB-49. They looked like spaceships in a world of biplanes. But there was a dark problem hidden in the design. Without a tail, the YB-49 suffered from chronic, severe instability. In 1949, this instability was not just a technical detail. It was a death sentence. The technology of the time was too analog for Northrop's genius. Pilots fought against the controls, but the plane insisted on spinning around itself. After fatal accidents, the American government gave the order: destroy the prototypes. The dream of the flying wing was buried for 30 years, waiting for something that didn't exist yet, the electronic brain. But here's what the official story rarely tells. Jack Northrop's failure. It wasn't just a lack of computers. It was a miscalculation that almost erased the flying wing concept from existence. The original sin of tailless design is lateral instability. Imagine trying to balance a coin on its edge on top of a running fan. Without the vertical tail to act as a ship's keel, any crosswind gust would send the prototype into a zigzag motion, uncontrollable. In 1948, during a test flight, the E-3 B-49 literally disintegrated in midair, killing the pilot Glenn Edwards. The verdict at the time was harsh. Uncontrollable. Unusable. The Air Force even believed that humans simply didn't have reflexes fast enough to tame a pure wing. And they were right. For the B-21 to exist today, humans had to be taken out of the control equation and replaced by something that does not blink, does not hesitate, and processes physics in milliseconds. How do you tame the untamable? The answer for the B-21 Raider is hidden in a term that sounds simple, but conceals a nightmare of engineering. The split-drag rudders. Look at the wingtips. In a regular airplane, you turn using the rudder on the tail. On the B-21, you turn using the rudder on the tail. The wing splits into two halves, creating intentional asymmetric drag. It's like you're in a rowboat and you dig the oar in on just one side to turn. Sounds elegant, right? But here's the risk. Every time these surfaces open, they increase the plane's radar signature. They break its invisibility. This is the constant conflict inside the Raider's electronic brain. If it doesn't open the drag rudders, it loses control and crashes. If it opens them too much, enemy radar detects it and it gets shot down. The B-21's fly-by-wire flight system makes tiny adjustments, thousands of times per second, to keep the plane on the razor's edge between physical stability and electronic survival. But the engineering didn't stop at control. To eliminate the tail, Northrop Grumman's engineers had to face another enemy: heat. In a normal bomber, the engines are hung under the wings, which is great for cooling, but it's a beacon for heat-seeking missiles. In the B-21, the engines are buried deep within the wing structure. This creates a life-or-death problem. How do you feed air to these engines without creating giant air intakes that radar can see? The solution was the design of low-profile air intakes. They are so thin that they seem insufficient. If the airflow fails for even a second due to a sharp maneuver, the engine suffers a compressor stall, shuts down, and you have an 80-ton glider silently falling over enemy territory. Every turn the B-21 makes is a risk calculation between providing oxygen to the engine and remaining invisible to radar. At this point, you might be thinking, all this complex engineering just to hide a plane? The short answer is no. The B-21 radar is not just an invisible plane. It is the first node in an intelligence network that renders any current air defense system obsolete. We need to talk about the elephant in the room, the S-400 and S-500 systems. For decades, Russian and Chinese doctrine has been based on creating exclusion zones where no Western aircraft could survive. They have invested trillions in low-frequency radars capable of detecting metallic objects, even those with stealth shapes. And this is where the absence of a tail on the B-21 stops being an aerodynamic curiosity and becomes a geopolitical checkmate weapon. Long-wave surveillance radars are excellent at detecting vertical protrusions, such as the tails of an F-22 or an F-35. By eliminating the vertical tail, Northrop Grumman not only reduced drag, they eliminated the main resonance signature that these stealth-hunting radars use. Without vertical surfaces, the B-21 does not appear as an aircraft to these systems. It appears as background noise, a bird, or at most, an irrelevant atmospheric anomaly. But the real game-changer is what happens inside the cockpit. Unlike any previous bomber, the B-21 was built with an open systems architecture. What does that mean in practice? Imagine the plane is a smartphone. In the past, to upgrade a B-52 or a B-2, you had to take apart half the aircraft and spend years on hardware certification. With the radar, the Air Force can perform software updates mid-flight to neutralize new enemy radar frequencies detected in real time. This creates a logistical nightmare for the adversary. The moment an enemy defense system learns to recognize a pattern from the B-21, the plane digitally alters its own electronic signature. It's a digital chameleon flying at 15,000 meters altitude. Now let's enter a territory that few analysts discuss. The B-21 is a battle management node. It doesn't fly alone. It is the conductor of an orchestra of unmanned drones called Collaborative Combat Aircraft, or CCA. The B-21 uses its computational stability to process sensor data from across the entire theater of operations, filtering out what is important, and distributing targets to missiles launched from ships hundreds of miles away, or to drones that fly ahead of it as expendable wingmen. The onboard processing capability of the radar is equivalent to a small data center. It uses artificial intelligence to fuse radar, infrared, and electromagnetic signal data. The pilot is no longer flying the plane. As we saw in Step 4, the computer takes care of that so it doesn't crash. The pilot is now an information director, deciding which nodes of the enemy network should be taken down first. This is the strategic turning point. The B-21, it is not a successor to the B-2. It is proof that modern warfare will not be won by whoever has the fastest missile, but by whoever controls the flow of information in the most hostile airspace on the planet. If the radar loses its connection, it is still a lethal bomber. But while it's connected, it makes every other American military asset 10 times more dangerous. To support this intelligence without the aid of physical stabilizers, the B-21 structure had to be reinvented. We're not talking about conventional aluminum or titanium. The Raider uses variable density carbon fiber composites. In a flying wing, structural stress is not distributed evenly. Without a tail to relieve torsional forces, the wing endures immense pressure during evasive maneuvers. If the wing were too rigid, it would crack. If it were too flexible, the plane would lose the stealth geometry needed to deflect radar. Engineers created a structure that breathes. It undergoes micro-deformations controlled by piezoelectric sensors that inform the flight computer exactly how much pressure every centimeter of the plane's skin is withstanding. This brings us to the cost. Each B-21 unit costs approximately $700 million. Is that a high price? Yes. But when you understand that this single aircraft replaces the need for an entire fleet of escort, electronic warfare, and reconnaissance planes, the calculation changes. The B-21 is the economy of scale applied to strategic destruction. The emergence of the B-21 has forced global competitors into a desperate race. China, with its H-20 project, is trying to copy the pure wing formula. But they face the same wall that Jack Northrop encountered in 1948, the software. You can copy the shape, but you can't easily copy the millions of lines of code that prevent a flying wing from going into a flat spin. Deadly. The existence of the B-21 renders almost all of the past decade's ground-based defense infrastructure obsolete. Imagine spending $100 billion on a network of radars and missiles, only to find out that your enemy has built something that simply slips through your sensors. This forces world powers to abandon ground-based defense and pursue space-based defense instead. The ultimate scale isn't about planes versus planes. It's about the B-21 forcing the total militarization of Earth's orbit so it can be detected from above, where its stealth belly is more vulnerable. But here lies Northrop Grumman's best-kept secret. The B-21 was designed to be optionally manned. Yes, it has a cockpit. It has seats and interfaces for humans, but the control architecture we discussed, the one that stabilizes tailless flight, was designed so that, in the future, the human can be completely removed from the most dangerous missions. Imagine a strategic bomber capable of flying 40 or 50-hour missions, crossing oceans, carrying out strikes, and returning. Without the biological limitations of a pilot, without the need for oxygen, human pressurization, or ejection, the design could be even more radical. The B-21 we see today is just the shell of a transition toward fully autonomous warfare. The real impact of the Raider is psychological. In military strategy, there is a concept called the collapse of will. When an adversary knows that you possess a weapon capable of striking the heart of their command at any time, without warning, and that they have no physical means to stop it, the war often ends before the first shot is fired. The B-21 is a tool of coercive diplomacy. It is the guarantee that there is no longer any sovereign territory if you are the target of a sixth-generation power. Jack Northrop's legacy has finally been honored. But there is a cost he could never have imagined. He wanted the efficiency of pure flight. What did we get? It was a machine that defies human perception, that operates in a parallel digital reality, and that maintains world peace through the promise of invisible and inevitable destruction. Physics said it shouldn't fly. Engineering proved that physics can be bent if you have enough processing power. And history will say that the B-21 Raider was the moment when the airplane ceased to be a flying machine and became a lethal algorithm. Many believe that the secret of the B-21 Raider lies in its composite materials or its state-of-the-art sensors. But the truth runs deeper. The Raider is the ultimate proof that, in the 21st century, aerodynamics has become a slave to computing. Jack Northrop dreamed of the flying wing for its beauty and efficiency. What the world received was a war algorithm that inhabits the void left by the absence of a tail. Perhaps the greatest secret of this machine is not what it can destroy, but what it forced the entire world to build afterward. Tailless flight is not just an engineering achievement. It is the echo of a question we still do not know how to answer. And perhaps that was never the true objective. If you enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel, and thank you very much.